Hey everybody, I'm Anthony.
And I'm Rachel.
This week on episode 68 of Taking Control, Rachel and I discuss the latest iOS vulnerability.
Facebook is taking control of all the spammers.
And Google is starting to record phone calls for quality assurance.
Live from when I see my voice crack.
All this and more. We're live from West, yeah. Let's go. All right, jumping right into this week's first topic, which is our Technologically Speaking topic this week, brought to you by Rachel and I at the desk, is Apple iOS voiceover feature that someone has actually found a vulnerability with an Apple iOS feature. Essentially what they're doing is they're able to bypass the lock screen whenever a phone call is coming through, where you have the option to respond with a text message if you can't pick up the phone or whatever it might be. From there, they're able to get access to things like photos and videos. I can't say how long this will be around. I have a feeling that Apple has a finger on the pulse already and is probably taking measures, but it goes to show you that, even these devices that we use every single day, Apple, Android, whatever it might be, people are constantly at work trying to figure out ways to gain access to the information on those devices. So it's important to kind of be cognizant of that. That's a tricky word for me, as always. But it's important.
Thursday, close to the weekend.
Yeah, it's important to kind of take note of those things that, 1, 2, 3, 4 password is probably not always the safest bet. So
also just keep in mind of things you have on your phone. Like, I was an idiot when I was younger, and I'd be like, yeah, let's keep all my banking information in an Apple Note. Don't do that.
As a contact,
yeah.
Bank account number.
I know a lot of, I use banking apps for my credit card, like Venmo, PayPal, like my debit card, and things like that. Really take advantage if they have that security of your fingerprint instead of a password, or your face instead of a password. Obviously always have a 2-step authentication.
Yeah.
Scott would be proud that I remembered that. But just so you keep yourself extra secure to prepare for things such as this. But like Anthony said, Apple's probably 10 steps ahead already, trying to figure out the next thing to make their products more secure.
Yeah, I think that's a great point though, because while this first vulnerability can gain access to photos or videos or whatever it might be, you bring up it's actually really a bigger point with that our entire lives are essentially on these phones. And while most banks have a fingerprint or something like that, definitely take advantage of those types of features, because passwords are sort of the days of old at this point. I feel like now everything else is more like the biometrics and all that.
Yeah, I'm for it.
Yeah, me too.
Hacking my Instagram is one thing, but hacking my bank is another. So no.
Which one's worse?
Instagram?
Okay.
No,
good answer.
I'm just kidding.
No, that's a good answer. Moving on to Google. So Google Discover, which is the rebranded form of Google Feed, which is the rebranded feed or term for Google Now. Essentially on the Google app of your phone, if you have the Google app itself and you click in, you're logged in, the first thing you'll see on your homepage is a feed of relevant stories or things that matter to you. So if you search for, Marvel movies, you'll see all the latest news about the latest Marvel movies or whatever it might be. You have a favorite sports team, you'll see scores, you'll see games, you'll see news stories. This is Google's way of trying to curate a bunch of content and kind of serve it up to you, because obviously if Google can give you things that you want to see, they'll keep you on Google. With that being said, this week Google decided to start to test out advertisements in that feed. So instead of it just being natural organic results that are relevant to you personally, now Google's going to start to slip in some advertisements, which is not something that I think is very surprising. Google makes 98% of the revenue from an advertisement stream, so Google trying to work in these ads anytime that they can is not a surprising move to me.
I think this is a 2-tier story. One, you think of businesses like One SEO, digital marketing companies and small businesses that can utilize this platform by getting their business, by getting their coupon, whatever it be, in front of the consumer. But then you think of the end user, where, on Facebook now, most of it is ads. I feel like my news feed,
pretty much
90% of it is ads. So all I'm doing is I'm not reading content, I'm just scrolling. Same with Instagram, Snapchat, or any other, social platform that I use, that might just become a moot point. I feel like these advertisers now have to be more creative, more eye-catching, use video, use creative, use graphic design to your advantage, and then have witty content. That's gonna be the best way to get, the attention. Other than that, I'm just gonna continue going to ESPN for my Eagles scores. I'm gonna continue going to my Amazon feed for shopping. I'm not going to pick one generalized app if I'm just gonna get ads for nonchalant items, services, whatever it may be.
Yeah, there's that concept of banner blindness where everyone's just so numb to advertisements.
Yep.
They're trained to kind of scroll over it. Everybody's trained to, on YouTube, hover into the bottom right so they can skip the ad as fast as possible. So I think you're right. Like there's going to need to be a balance of, how can we actually reach these people without them just ignoring it. So I think that's a great point too.
This is the layup for the creative portion of digital marketing. Everything like that is overlooked, but I think that's really important because you're going to need someone to grab that attention. Micro moment. Lance talks about micro moments all the time, and I think this is something that's really important to think of with the new Google feed.
Absolutely, and this is being A/B tested, as some people are seeing it, some people aren't. So it's not that's not unlike Google to run tests like that, but definitely something I think that they'll be moving forward with if it's making them money. So shifting gears, speaking of making money, to YouTube. So everyone knows that if you produce content, you're a content creator on YouTube, whatever it might be, the majority of your money comes from advertisements that you're able to serve up within your video, before your video, whatever it might be. Obviously, sponsorships and influencer marketing and all that can come into play, but the biggest thing is you want ads to run on your video. If you're getting 90,000 views in 24 hours on your latest video, you want to run ads. YouTube has recently decided to take some strides to eliminating people from making money when they're just kind of recycling content, duplicate content essentially on YouTube. So we know there's duplicate content on websites. Websites can be harmed by having the same content as other websites. Now YouTube's saying, you can't just copy someone else's content verbatim essentially and make money off of it. So this is a big play, I think, to try to keep things more unique and fresh and promote original content. For,
I guess the viewers that don't understand why this is important or say, why do I care? I just go on, YouTube and watch makeup tutorials or like how to do this or music videos like I do. YouTube is still, correct me if I'm wrong, the second largest search engine.
Yes.
So think of all of that content and all of the work that you can do on one platform that people might not even think about. So I think, like, in the beginning when we were sent this story, I was like, okay, YouTube, yeah, but then I really thought about it. Like, they can make a big impact. So make that original content, keep it updated, and just make sure that you're up to date.
Yeah.
That's kind of verbatim what I said.
It's such a monster platform nowadays, though, like, because everything is pivoting to video. And there are people who create content literally full-time on YouTube, and it's people that put a ton of work into it as well. So it is something that YouTube recognizes, and they don't want people to be in their partner program if they're going to repurpose or just kind of recycle content or literally have another video play as their video. They want you to have that unique flair to it, original commentary, whatever it might be. So that is something that has been coming down the pipeline as far as YouTube is concerned. So original content, that's the name of the game for that one. Shifting gears again back to Google. So Google, everyone knows AdWords. Everyone knows that there's calls from ads. So if you have an ad served up and you're a plumber, I click on your ad and I call you right there from the ad. Basically, you're paying for that click, obviously. But what Google does at this point is they're now deciding to record and listen to some of these phone calls internally on their end. So typically you'd have a call tracking number in place. You can listen to those phone calls on your own, see if they're quality phone calls, if they're spammy or whatever it might be, if they turned into an actual job that you booked. Google wants to listen to these phone calls as well at this point because they're essentially trying to build a model of which they can create some sort of automation that helps prevent spam and can prevent just poor phone calls essentially. So this is something where if you're opting into call only, you have to have this feature enabled. You can't say, Google, I don't want you to listen to my phone calls. So it is something to consider there. But this is, in the end, I think going to make things better for everyone, really.
I'm being the one SEO call tracking extraordinaire that I self-proclaimed myself. I wonder if this is gonna remove the middleman, because Google gives your analytics, your ads. Google themselves have this whole house of software and house of platforms you can use to track your data.
Right.
But for call tracking, you always seem to go to the outside step, the Marchex, the call rail, et cetera, et cetera. Yep. So I wonder if eventually it's just gonna replace it. Google's just gonna take over that portion of digital marketing that they don't own just yet. I know integration between AdWords and call tracking softwares, it's not always perfect. I recommend tracking in both just to be safe, but not surprised interested to see if they're going to take it over.
Yeah, it's weird that they haven't really kind of made a major push into just providing you with the full call tracking software or service, really, because they can give you the, down to the seconds of how long a phone call was, the exact minute it was, and all you can really do with that information is take it to your call rail or your Marchex, line it up, and find the phone call that way. But that is an interesting point. I think that's something that they should definitely...
And not to discredit call tracking platforms, because I am the #1 fan of our call tracking platform. I love our call tracking platform. But I almost think Google is going to take away the bots. They're going to try to sift through, what's real traffic besides fake traffic and things like that. So, good move for Google. Kind of just a note in the back of your head. If you're not call recording, do it. If you're not call tracking, you should, because these platforms and these devices, they let you see who's calling from where and what. Some even go down to the dynamic keyword where you can see what keyword they search to call. You can see where your traffic is from. It really is kind of a no-brainer. In the words of Lance and Anthony, call tracking is a no-brainer.
It is a no-brainer.
Without even thinking you should do it.
Yeah, definitely. And another reason why this story is important to you is because if you think about, you are paying for those calls, you're paying for those clicks. So you don't want a competitor messing with your campaign, clicking on your ad and calling and pretending to be somebody else. You don't want a telemarketer Googling your brand, clicking on the ad to call you. You don't want the phone call to begin with, and now you're paying to have them call you through an ad. So think about all those things. Google is very aware of all that, and this is all trying to help eliminate a lot of these junk phone calls that people get and kind of ruin their platform, turn people away from wanting to use their platform, which then creates an issue of less money for Google. So that's one of the reasons why I think it's important for everybody is everybody gets phone calls that don't mean anything. If every phone call was great and was a lead, that'd be awesome, but the reality is it's not.
It's not.
So
there's a lot of bad leads out there versus qualified leads out there, and things like that. So
that's why I think it's important for everybody, and one of the reasons why Rachel and I wanted to go over it. So you mentioned scrolling through Facebook earlier, which is a great pivot over to the over-optimization of social media. It's not a surprise. When you look at SEO, marketers kind of tend to do things until they break it, and then they find another way to do it, and then they do things until they break it.
Do you do things until you break it?
I do not. I do not do things until I break it. I'm saying marketers in general. There's a lot of bad marketers out there. But the reality is we kind of knew this was coming for social media. We knew that this was coming as far as trying to find ways to beat the system, finding loopholes to get around Facebook's algorithm, whatever it might be. Before, Facebook did a lot of based on user engagement, promoting content that got a lot of user engagement, likes, shares, comments. People are finding ways around that. So now Facebook's pivoting even more to relevant content. What are people talking about in the news and whatever it might be. People are finding ways around that too now. So the biggest thing now is that spam comes in all forms. It's not very obvious. It's not always going to be fake sunglasses or whatever it might be that's for sale, or when your Facebook account gets hacked like mine and you post about Ray-Bans on everybody's page. It's not always going to be that.
That was circa 2010. I remember that happening a lot when I was in high school.
It happened to me 2 years ago. Yeah, it posted on everybody's...
Anthony, how bad was your password?
It was probably pretty bad.
So, there you go.
But it's not always like that anymore, and the reality is people are trying to create these posts that are very clickbaity, that make you want to click, and when you click it, you get taken to a website that's riddled with ads, and they make all their money by driving traffic to a site that's covered in ads. So Facebook's really trying to crack down on that form of spam right now, I feel like.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so the biggest thing here is that Facebook has come leaps and bounds. They know that they are a major platform right now. They know that it's sort of their responsibility. They've kind of said it's our responsibility to make sure that we're promoting friends and family and content that means something to us, and it's not just, who can get the most likes or shares or whatever it might be. So I think when you look at kind of how these people have figured out the algorithm and gotten this far with driving traffic, they'll use things like politics, they'll use things like trending news stories, all of those things with clickbait titles that'll get you to click on a website, it'll be covered in ads, and that's what Facebook's essentially trying to combat right now. So not a lot to say there as far as it's just something to be aware of. It's not something that the average business is probably taking advantage of. This is more someone...
really passionate about this story.
I was, yeah.
Clearly.
I'm big on Facebook these days.
Are you?
Yeah. I'm back. I used to be more Instagram. I feel like I'm coming back to Facebook a little bit.
Good. Anthony's gonna be like that Facebook dad.
Yeah. What's wrong with that? Anyways, always kind words from our very own One SEO's Rachel Lawler. Rachel, it's been fun at episode 68. We thank you guys for tuning in. We hope everyone has a fantastic week.
See you next week.